Now at 6 and streaming on crossroadstoday.com, local leaders react to the possible move of the University of Houston Victoria to the Texas A&M system.
The measles outbreak continues to grow as experts clash over vaccines.
One person is dead after a small plane crashes into the North Texas woods.
Sunny skies, breezy conditions, current temperature 86 degrees. We topped to 90 this afternoon. Very hot temperatures, dry conditions as well. How long will it last? We'll find out in my full forecast.
And who will be tonight's Athlete of the Week? Find out later on, coming up in sports.
You're watching 25 News Now at 6. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Shawna Currie.
And I'm Brubaker.
A former Victoria ISD teacher accused of assaulting a special needs student receives probation and a fine. We first reported this story in November 2023. The Victoria County District Attorney's Office said it took into consideration the fact that 37-year-old Stephanie Overstreet is no longer in the teaching profession when coming to the agreement. Overstreet is ordered to pay a fine of $283 for each of the two cases. The Texas Education Agency shows Overstreet still has two valid teaching certificates, with a note that Overstreet is under review by the Investigations Division.
A Placido man is charged with possession of child pornography. Victoria police arrested 32-year-old Rusty Red on College Street in Placido. The arrest coming after search warrants were executed. He is in the Victoria County Jail. No bond is set.
Victoria ISD is calling on the community to help shape the future of education in the district. Through a series of town halls, Victoria ISD hopes to gather input from the community to guide its priorities through the school year. Coming up tonight at 10, we will have a report from tonight's meeting at Shields Elementary, which is the last in the series. And it brings us to our viewer poll. We're asking if you attended any of the strategic planning town halls. Yes or no. The yes has picked up a little bit from our 5 o'clock newscast, but still 87% of voters say they did not attend any of the strategic planning town halls. We want to hear from you. Visit crossroadstoday.com/vote to take part, and we'll have the latest numbers on 25 News Now at 10. Local business owners say the possibility of the University of Houston Victoria becoming part of the Texas A&M University system would be a benefit to our area. District 18 State Senator Louis Kolkhorst filed SB 2361 proposing this transfer. If it's approved, the Texas A&M system would have 12 colleges around the state. If the university is integrated into the Texas A&M system, there could be more course offerings such as medicine, engineering, and land management.
I believe Texas A&M could be a huge economic driver, which we want our universities to be.
While he is excited that the bill is filed, it does still have to pass through the legislature and get approval from the Texas A&M Board of Regents. Former state representative Jeannie Morrison filed a similar bill in 2011. That bill did not pass.
In a statement, Victoria County Judge Ben Zeller expressed his support for moving UHV to the Texas A&M system. Judge Zeller said, in quote, "The transfer could bring significant benefits, expanded academic programs, and a more substantial regional presence. The culture and traditions of Texas A&M are a perfect fit in Victoria and our region," end quote.
Victoria Mayor Dwayne Crocker is also supporting the Senate bill transferring UHV to the Texas A&M University system. In a statement, Mayor Crocker said the move is a forward-thinking transformation that will ensure the long-term success of the university. He said the transition will provide UHV with increased access to the resources and support that it needs. Mayor Crocker added the transfer will not only be an investment in higher education, but also a commitment to the future of Victoria.
The University of Houston system released a statement this afternoon saying in part, quote, "We recognize that the academic programs offered by the Texas A&M University system, specifically in the areas of agribusiness and agricultural economics, may be better aligned to support the Victoria region's economic growth and local workforce needs," end quote. Bring on the 80s, and I don't mean the decade, okay? I mean the temperatures, and here they are.
Well, we've jumped ahead a little bit even to the 90s already here, not even halfway through March. So let's go over to Trey Mining with a first look at our forecast.
Tell you what, we started in the 60s this morning, went to the 70s, went through the 80s, and topped the 90-degree mark this afternoon. Very hot temperatures. Take a look at these very low humidities. Dry line on top of us here in Victoria. The south, of course, along the coast, a little bit higher. 30% humidity in Victoria currently. 21% in Hallettsville, 13%. That is extremely dry up there in Gonzales and Nixon, following behind at 14%. Very dry conditions out here, very volatile fire danger as well. What about your weekend? Any chance of rain anytime soon? We'll try to find some. We'll take a look at that full forecast a little bit later on. Back to you.
So it's a dry heat.
Yeah, that's right.
It's
Yes.
still hot. Well, volunteer fire departments across Texas are getting a big boost. The Texas A&M Forest Service awarded approximately $2.1 million in grants during its latest funding meeting, helping rural fire crews get the equipment and training they need to protect their communities. These grants come through the Rural Volunteer Fire Department Assistance Program, which was created by the Texas legislature in 2001 to support volunteer departments that often operate on tight budgets. 7 Crossroads area departments received $25,000 grants, and the Port Lavaca Volunteer Fire Department received $10,000 in grants.
The measles outbreak continues to spread across the southern and western U.S., reaching nearly 260 cases in 3 states. With the rising infections, state health departments are urging people to get vaccinated.
Those calls happening as the U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary downplays vaccine effectiveness and safety. Michael Yoshida has the story.
The deadly measles outbreak growing to 258 cases across 3 states. According to local health data, as of March 11th, there were 223 reported cases in Texas, 33 cases in New Mexico, and 2 cases in Oklahoma. State health departments and medical experts urging people to get vaccinated.
The vaccine is one of the safest, most effective vaccines we have, and 90% protection in 1 dose, 97% protection in 2 doses. Oftentimes it will give you lifelong immunity. Sometimes there'll be some slight waning.
Amid calls for more vaccinations to help slow the spread, U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. downplaying the safety and long-term effectiveness of the vaccine.
When you and I were kids, everybody got measles. And measles gave you lifetime protection against measles infection. The vaccine doesn't do that. The vaccine is effective for some people for life, but many people it wanes.
Kennedy's comments drawing sharp rebuke from experts.
The head of health leadership in this country bungling basic facts at best and sharing outright lies at worst.
While there is some disagreement among experts about how much protection may wane, if at all, they all agree in most cases the measles vaccine does give lifelong immunity against the virus. This year's outbreak, mostly among children and driven largely by unvaccinated populations, is only the 3rd time since 2000 where cases have risen above 200. In Washington, I'm Michael Yoshida reporting.
Today, the White House withdrew its nomination of Dr. Dave Weldon to serve as the director of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Weldon's previous comments expressing vaccine skepticism.
Those comments raised concerns among health experts.
A Texas House bill would reduce legal protections for renters and accelerate evictions, tenants advocates told lawmakers. Landlord groups say the bill is needed to clamp down on squatters, curtail laws they say can slow evictions. To read the full Texas Tribune article, visit crossroadstoday.com.
A Texas Senate panel advances a bill banning DEI in K through 12 public schools. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick announced the 2nd round of top 40 priority bills for this legislative session, topping the Lieutenant Governor's 2nd round priority bills list, increasing teacher pay and establishing a teacher bill of rights. The state Senate already passed a bill providing school choice.
1 person is dead after a small plane crashed into a wooded area. A Cessna Citation jet crashed after taking off from the Mesquite Metro Airport east of Dallas this morning. There was no damage reported to homes or other structures in the area. A nearby resident described seeing 2 explosions after it looked like the plane had crashed into the woods near a creek. The pilot was the only person on board. The FAA and NTSB will investigate the crash.
Everyone is safe after a plane made an emergency landing in an East Houston neighborhood. It happened Wednesday night. Houston police say it was a training flight headed from Galveston to West Houston. Only the pilot and a trained pilot were on board. Fortunately, it missed every home and every power line, and nobody was hurt. Congressman Sylvester Turner is honored as his body lies in the state capitol building in Austin. Turner died on March 5th at the age of 70 years old, just weeks into his first term in Congress. Turner served as Houston mayor for 8 years before being elected in November to fill the House seat held by longtime Democratic Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, who died in July. Turner also served as a state representative for 27 years. Another special election will be held later to fill Turner's seat in Congress.
Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell. Stay with us. Coming up on 25 News Now at 6, dozens of arrests are made after protesters flood Trump Tower demanding freedom for a detained activist.
Also ahead, President Trump meets with the NATO chief as questions grow about the alliance's future and the U.S. commitment.
A heated debate over free speech and federal policy is growing on college campuses, including the University of Texas at Austin. Students gathered on campus Wednesday night calling for the release of Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil. Federal authorities arrested Khalil over the weekend. The Trump administration says he has ties to Hamas, a group designated as a terrorist organization by the U.S. government. Khalil's supporters argue his arrest is politically motivated. Protesters stormed inside Trump Tower in Manhattan today, leading to a standoff with police and multiple arrests.
Lee Waldman is in New York with more.
Over 120 people flooded inside of Trump Tower here in Midtown Manhattan for a protest over the arrest of prominent Palestinian protester Mahmoud Khalil, who was detained by ICE over the weekend and is currently being held in Louisiana. Now, police are telling us they've arrested 98 people in response to this protest that spread over 2 different floors inside of the tower behind us. We know this was organized by Jewish Voices for Peace. Those protesters wearing red shirts with slogans on them like "Not in Our Name" and "Fight Nazis, Not Students." As we came up, as some of those protesters were being taken by bus to Central Booking, we heard people shouting "Free Mahmoud" and "Free Palestine." All of this comes one day after Khalil's legal representation was facing off against the DOJ in a court not far from where we are right now. Now, the judge has not decided whether or not to release Khalil from the detention facility in Louisiana, instead ordering that he has more access to his legal team as they file briefings on his behalf. In Manhattan, I'm Lee Waldman reporting.
Americans are becoming increasingly concerned about the economy. A Quinnipiac University poll released today found less than a quarter of registered voters think the nation's economy is in good shape, and 30% say the economy is the most important issue facing the country right now. The poll put President Trump's approval rating at 42% among registered voters. President Trump met with the head of NATO today, while a possible trade war looms with many member states and a U.S.-led ceasefire deal between Ukraine and Russia hangs in the balance.
Julia Benbrook has the key takeaways from today's meeting.
NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte was here at the White House on Thursday to meet with President Donald Trump. The two leaders sat down in the Oval Office, and during that meeting, Trump said he was in favor of Rutte's leadership of the treaty organization. Trump has long called on NATO members to spend more on defense.
When I first went to NATO, my first meeting, I noticed that very few people were paying. And if they were, they weren't paying their fair share. There were only 7 countries that were paying what they were supposed to be paying.
The NATO alliance is nearly 80 years old and spans the administrations of 14 U.S. presidents.
I really want to work together with you in a run-up to the The Hague Summit to make sure that we will have a NATO which is really reinvigorated under your leadership, and we are getting there.
This meeting comes as Trump has profoundly shaken Europe's faith in American military backing. And just last week, the U.S. president questioned the alliance's instituting principle of the Article 5 agreement, vowing that an attack on one NATO member is an attack on all. Trump's recent actions and comments were no doubt top of mind during the sit-down, including his willingness to embrace Russian President Vladimir Putin and his public back and forth with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. This meeting comes as Ukraine has accepted a 30-day ceasefire deal proposed by the United States. But Putin expressed reservations and says much still needs to be discussed. Reporting at the White House, I'm Julia Van Broek.
And President Trump told reporters today that Putin's response to the U.S. proposed ceasefire with Ukraine is, in his words, promising but not complete.
And tonight's the night. We have a lunar eclipse. I want to get up early and check it out. Beginning at 10:57 p.m., beginning to see a little bit of the left side of the moon there beginning to eclipse. Also full moon totality eclipse by 1:58 a.m. Ends at 5 a.m. There could be a few clouds out there to hamper the view, but it's worth checking out. Should see some clear spots. What about the forecast for us? Continued dry weather. Looks like it's going to be the case. We'll take a look coming up. Sunshine, hot day today. Temperature is top 90 degrees in Victoria. And with the continued dry conditions, very low humidity, we have the red flag warnings and our fire weather watch. This goes into effect tomorrow afternoon, Friday afternoon, and Saturday afternoon, with the humidity very low and gusty winds keep the fire danger in play. So please, no outdoor burning. Don't even think about that, because it's easy to get out of control in situations like this. We've seen that happen in the past, and we don't want to repeat that. Sunny skies today, a few high clouds from time to time. Subtropical jet not bringing any rainfall, but keeping some cloudy conditions down in the western part of the state of Texas. While we continue to bake here pretty much under the very dry conditions and also the hot temperatures. We're down to 86 degrees. We were 90 degrees the last hour here in Victoria, and a little bit cooler along the Red River Valley toward Amarillo and in Lubbock there in the Panhandle, where they're in the 70s. 85 degrees San Angelo, keeping it in the 90s from Del Rio to Laredo currently. They were 100 degrees today, definitely very hot along the Rio Grande Valley and the Rio Grande River for us here, pretty much the same. Temperatures beginning to fall right now, temperatures in the 80s, and we'll see that continuing to fall. Temperature will be a little cool feel to the air, believe it or not, by early tomorrow morning. And the humidity is trying to come back, but having a hard time doing so. There's a dry line over the area, separates the drier air to the west, more humid air to the south along the coast. And you'll see the front coming through tomorrow, which will reverse the winds to the north and northwest, which is a drying condition around here, which will keep the Temperatures in the cool side in the morning time, they're definitely hot during the afternoon, but the main thing is going to be the very low humidity and the gusty winds, which we expect to continue. Temperatures will start at 90 degrees at 5 o'clock, and then we'll be in the 60s early tomorrow morning. So nice cool feel temporarily, but rockets up again above 90 degrees by the afternoon time around here. Getting near record high more than likely for tomorrow afternoon. A little bit of fog early in the morning time again, depending on where you are. Not anything too widespread or extremely dense, but about half-mile visibility is about early tomorrow morning. We gain to lift by the time we get to about 9 or 10 a.m. Dry line pretty much over the region here, much drier air to the west, and of course the humid air to the south along the immediate coast. And this is adding to the fire danger, and that'll be moving on through. And we see a front out west as well, causing rain showers and storms in the Los Angeles area. Then moving into Texas tomorrow, moving through our area here, and behind it it'll bring a dry air mass around the low and moving into Texas, keep the dry conditions for us going, unfortunately, for the time being. Quail, early tomorrow morning, dealing with a few cloud cover areas and around DeWitt County and most of the crossroads. And near 90 degrees by 3 o'clock in the afternoon with sunny conditions, with a little bit of breeze in the air, southwesterly winds turning northwesterly coming up for your day tomorrow. Well, later on in your day Friday, actually, coming up. And cloudy skies for tomorrow morning around Port Lavaca. Benefit of the breeze off the bay, keeping those folks probably in the mid-80s for the daytime high. And Victoria, cloudy skies early, sunny skies throughout the rest of the time period. Topping 90 again for the daytime high for 3 p.m. hours or so. Alert day for your Friday and Saturday. Why? Because of the fire danger threat on both days in the afternoon especially. But keeping the dry conditions going. A little bit cooler coming up for the weekend, Sunday and Monday, Tuesday, highs in the low 80s. And then a little stronger front on Thursday, highs in the 70s by then. Dry conditions, sunny skies. Be careful out there. No burning, please. Very unsafe situation. The fire can get out of control very easily, so please hold off on that. Otherwise, make it a great evening and a great day on Friday. Take a look at this right here. This is the QR code. Get your smartphone, scan the code. See right there, they'll take you to a web page. You can download our app. News, weather, and sports at your fingertips. It's free of charge to have on your phone as well. Be connected with us. Everything here in the Crossroads. Shawna?
All right, probably near record high temperatures for this early in the year. But we also are going over to sports with Max Williams, who is talking about a sports history that's being made.
That's right, Shawna. After the break, we're going to talk about in girls state powerlifting for the first time. One school made history there for the first time at the girls state powerlifting meet in Edinburgh. Find out what happened coming up in sports. All right, Crossroads, today is Thursday, and you know what that means. We get to reveal who this week's Athlete of the Week will be. Last week we gave it to Refugio thrower Sierra Tilley. Well, this week we're heading back to the mound. We're handing it to Shiner third baseman there and Kaylee Brubaker. Here's more for our Athlete of the Week. For this week's Athlete of the Week, we're hitting the softball field where the Shiner Lady Comanche softball team has been dominant in their past 2 district games, beating Bloomington 30-0 and Louise 28-0. One of the stars in Tuesday's game was senior Kaylee Brubaker, who had a home run in their 28-0 victory. Brubaker is proud her team put all it together this past Tuesday.
Overall, as a team, we really, put the points on the board and just came out with a win today.
With her leadership qualities being displayed every game she plays, head coach Jason Keller knew she would be a star player for this team and appreciates how she leads by example.
Become more vocal for us this year, obviously being a senior, but she comes to practice, works extremely hard every day, has passion for the game, and is extremely competitive in everything that she does. She is a winner in everything that she does, highly competitive, and just loves to compete.
Now, Brubaker isn't just one of the top power hitters here up at the plate. She's also one of the top defense players on this team, making some big-time plays at shortstop. She talks about how this team's defensive efficiency has helped carry this team so far.
We do pretty good defense overall. Usually, sometimes we do have our errors or mistakes, but it's usually 1 or 2 times a game. Other than that, we're usually pretty good and clean up the mistakes that we always have.
In all, both Brubaker and Coach Keller want to reach the 2A state championship this season and make the senior class go out with a bang. Wish the Lady Comanches luck, and congrats to Kaylee Brubaker for being this week's Athlete of the Week. All right, congrats there to Kayla for being this week's Athlete of the Week. Now over to other Thursday staple, we have weekly fishing report. And this week we had some nice weather here across the crossroads, even though today it was upper 90s as we talked about there earlier. But let's see how it affected the waters here. We're first going to check out around Coleto Creek. Water temperature was again good. Right now there at 67 degrees. And water level dropped a little around there at Coleto Creek, and then bass shift over from the reefs over to the Dead Timbers area if you want to go fishing there. Over to saltwater area, East Matagorda Bay. The water is steady right now at 64 degrees. And wade fishing for big trout late this afternoon, and redfish, again, you can get that around the Shell Reefs area as well. Around Port O'Connor, the water level is good at 68 degrees. Trout are on the outside of the jetty's oversized drum, can be caught on the outside North Jetty area if you want to get around Port O'Connor. Now over, staying close to the waters area in Port Lavaca, where we had the Sand Crab Nation hold the annual Sand Crab Relays in Port Lavaca. This track invitational had multiple crossroads teams, including Calhoun, Cuero, Victoria West, Victoria St. Joseph, and Yoakum. Events are still going on right now, but again, saw earlier the boys 4x100 meter relay. Victoria St. Joseph finished in 2nd place. Calhoun, West, and Yoakum finished 4th and 5th and 6th place. As for the girls 4x100 team, the Cuero Lady Gobblers won it with a time of 50.39 seconds. Again, I'll let you know the final results there later on, and we'll see if you want to check out the results currently. Go to athleticnet.com. And then finally, Industrial Cobra's powerlifting team, girls powerlifting team, plays first today at the 3A Division II State Championships in Edinburgh. Some of the top placers were Miley Elena's taking first in the 123-pound weight class. Mackenzie Anna's finished 5th in the 114-pound weight class. Also, the Cobras got big production from Autumn Callis and Desiree Elena's, getting 2nd place there in the 148 and 165-pound weight classes. That's going to do it here in sports. Don and Shawna, back to you.
All right, Max, thank you, and we're back in a moment. It's almost time for the Chicago River to be dyed green for St. Patrick's Day. Finally tonight, Chicago's famous Green River started over 60 years ago. Since 1962, the river has died every year on the Saturday before St. Patrick's Day. It takes two boats, a lead boat to drop the dye and a chase boat to mix it up. Within moments, the Chicago River shines that perfect shade of green. The river dyeing and parade that follows draws hundreds of thousands of people every single year and generates millions of dollars for Chicago. St. Patrick's Day, by the way, is next Monday, and the Chicago River will go green Saturday. Oh, that
bright
looks
green.
Really green.
It's like you said, an annual tradition that usually happens there.
Yeah.
And it's, again, you can see it really well. So.
We just got this update. Weather is getting in the news. The latest attempt to launch the SpaceX crew has been moved back again to tomorrow because of the weather forecast, high winds, and precipitation there in Florida. That's what you're seeing too?
Over in Florida, yes. So the same front's going to be moving on through here, coming up for your day tomorrow, moving rather quickly. For us here, dealing with dry conditions and sunny skies and fire danger coming up for tomorrow afternoon, Friday and Saturday in the afternoon. Alert days at both times for fire danger during those times. So no outdoor burning, please. Keeping it dry, unfortunately, for the next 7 days. Highs a little bit cooler in the mid-80s over the weekend. Lows anywhere from the 40s, 50s to 60s throughout that time period as well.
So it's ripe for fires. Hate to
Very
say
much
that,
so,
but
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even if you're just outside working, officials are asking people to be careful that you don't have any sparks.
A small
or
spark
anything
could
like
cause
that.
a big fire.
Yeah, it won't take much. It won't take much. Thank you, Trey, and thanks for joining us.
We'll see you back here tonight for 25 News Now at 10. Until then, have a great evening.